I'm not really big on sharing quotes, but sometimes someone just nails it. Never make someone a priority when all you are to them is an option. Never make someone a priority when all you are to them is an option. This Maya Angelou quote couldn't be more appropriate to the world of online dating, and especially to when you're talking to a new match online, because if you're not a priority to them and they've got you on the back burner while they're talking to somebody else and basically you're their plan B if this doesn't work out, well, if that's the case, that person doesn't deserve to be with you. The problem is, though, sometimes it can be hard to identify those situations where they're not that into you and they've got you on that back burner. Well, today what I want to do is I want to give you 4 signs that you can look for to identify when your online match you're talking to is not that into you. Stay tuned. The text message conversation we just watched actually showcased 2 of the signs that we should be on the lookout for. Number 1, if all of their messages, all of their text messages, and all of their correspondence are always super short, that may be a red flag that you're not a priority. Now, there are quite a few caveats to this sign that you should be aware of, so make sure you stick around before jumping to any conclusions so we can talk through all of it. The first thing I want to talk about, though, is why are short messages a red flag? Well, if you're sending quality messages that you're putting effort into and you're taking some time to craft something meaningful that adds to the conversation, well, that's great. But if the person on the other end is not reciprocating that and you're only getting 1, 2, 3 word answers, well, then that's not a great sign. Now, again, there are quite a few caveats to this. Number 1, if they explain to you why they're sending short messages, then that could make it okay. For example, if they say, hey, I'm not someone who likes to text, I'm not someone who likes to message, I prefer to talk on the phone or in person, well, then that's okay. You should probably look to move a lot of your conversations to the phone that matches more of the medium that they're comfortable with. The second thing is these short messages can't just be, if they send you 2 or 3 short messages, you can't immediately go, this person's not into me. It needs to be a pattern over time because you never know when you send them a message and they write back, maybe they're at work. Maybe they're at a family thing. Maybe they've got something going on and they're trying to not be rude and respond quickly, but they just don't have time to craft a really long response. But if this is something that's happening every single time you message them or every time you text them, then it could be a signal that maybe they're not that into you. The second sign that we should be looking out for that we also saw in that text message conversation is someone who is not actively helping to continue the conversation. There are some natural pleasantries and natural ways that conversations happen. For example, if I said to you, hey, how are you doing? You would say, I'm good. How are you doing, right? It's just natural. It flows there. But when somebody doesn't want to continue talking to somebody, they're going to drop that part of the conversation off. And so if you're seeing that happen and it feels like you're really the only one that's driving the conversation, then chances are you might not be a priority to that person and they might not just be a strong enough person or have the decency to let you know. Instead, they're just going to let you keep texting. And, it's frustrating when that happens, but it happens more often than not. So if somebody looks like they are not actively helping continue the conversation, that's a sign that you're probably not a priority to them. Real quick, before we get to the last 2 signs, there's something I want to point out and make sure that it's clear. If you're talking to somebody online and you find out that you're not really a priority to them or they don't really like you as much as you like them, I want to make sure you know that that doesn't mean that there is anything wrong with you. It just means that you aren't what they particularly like. Here's a really cheesy example. I'm not a huge fan of vanilla ice cream. I prefer chocolate, right? Would you say because of that there's something wrong with vanilla ice cream? No, the only takeaway you would get from that is, well, Jason doesn't really like vanilla ice cream. No big deal. Should vanilla ice cream feel terrible about itself? Absolutely not. There are millions of people across the earth that like it. And I know that's like a super cheesy example, but it's the same concept when it comes to dating. So I just want to make sure that, if you're watching this video and you're finding out right now through looking at these signs that, hey, that guy or gal you're talking to might not be that into you, It's okay. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It just means that you two aren't as compatible as maybe you thought. The third sign you should be looking at to tell if someone you're talking to online is not treating you as a priority is how long it takes them to respond to your messages. Now, early in the dating cycle, when you're just getting to know them, this is way less important than when you're a couple weeks in or even sometimes a couple months in. Because at the beginning, you guys don't know each other and maybe you're head over heels for them because of the things you've seen in their profile and their pictures look great, but maybe they're a little slower in the process. So if it takes them a week and a half to get back to you every time, that's okay. Maybe they only have the ability to check their online dating on Fridays because of work or something like that. So it's completely okay. But where this starts to become more of an issue is later in the process, as you start to get to know each other better. If it still continues to be a week and a half, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I've even heard of sometimes that it takes someone to respond. Well, that starts to become a red flag. And what I recommend you do here, if this is something that you're starting to see, is bring it up, right? And so instead of just assuming, all right, they're not into me, just ask them, just say, hey, I'm really enjoying getting to know you, but it's a little tough when we can only respond once every week or two. Are you super busy or, or what's the scoop basically? And get an answer from them, right? Because even if they're into you, but they just don't have the time to date right now, well, that's something that you're going to want to know. You're not going to want to feel strung out. So if you're seeing this sign, I highly recommend bringing it up in a very non-threatening, non-accusatory way. Just say, hey, I'm really enjoying getting to know you. I'd love to be able to chat a little more regularly. But it seems like maybe it takes you a while to get back to me. Are you super busy or what's the scoop here? Something as simple as that, and you're going to get your answer here. If you don't get an answer you like, well, then obviously this is going to be a red flag that you are not a priority to them. Hey, that brings us to the end of the video. If you liked the content, you enjoyed it, and you want to support the channel, if you could just take a second right now and hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button. Those two things really do help out the channel, and we would really appreciate the support. And again, if you happen to find out today that, hey, someone you're talking to is maybe not that into you, remember, that has nothing to do with you. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It just happens to be something going on in their life, or you're not exactly what they're looking for. But again, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. Well, hey, thanks for your time today. My name is Jason with healthyframework.com. We'll see you soon.